Decir Brexit es la forma más insolidaria que hay de decir adiós. Europa no es un mercado, es la voluntad de vivir juntos. Dejar Europa no es dejar un mercado, es dejar los sueños compartidos. Se puede tener un mercado común, pero si no se tienen sueños comunes, no tenemos nada.
Revoltress, for until all ceases, neither must you cease.
Fundamental things. Hey everybody, welcome to Artist Space. Welcome to the Segue series. And for those of us and you out there who are in the Zoom room, my name is Reggie Kubico, Executive Director of A Gathering of the Tribes. We're so happy that you can be here. I am coming to you live. It is 5:05 at 11 Cortland. Ali at Artist Space. If you're out there, grab a drink. We're going to get started in exactly 5 minutes. We have an incredible reading with two incredible poets, Joan Larkin and Larkin Tariq. So we will see you in a few more minutes. Thank you.
I am myself, Mary.
Now I'm perfecting the method and the madness. The most traitorous, so the system's validity. The mind against the bottomized societies, vocals caught up in semantics, imperial ears upon the great work of the master, whose concepts and complex fractures are previous fractures. Vocals caught up in semantics, imperial ears upon the great work of the master, whose concepts and complex fractures are previous fractures. Ape shit like Simeon, grind elbows deep in the dirt with boot fingers, spinning optics, cloud the mind like mood swingers. I cast spells like spider webs, I cast spells like spider webs, fingers I cast spells like spider webs. With temple steps, icicle rhymes upon my breath. Cast spells like spider web. Fingers I 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 cast spells like spider web.
If you this very night should ride to death, if you this very night should ride to death, if you this very night should ride to death, straight from the piteous passion.
Hey y'all, test. When I say segue, you say rock. Segue. All right, we are back. My name is Reggie Kubiko. I am a co-curator for this fall series here with Segue Foundation. I am the executive director for A Gathering of the Tribes, and we are so honored to start our season of programming with Segue Foundation at Artist Space. I want to give a shout out to our incredible team out there from Segue. Let's snap it up for Daniel Eberlein, Cecilia Seltzer, and Madeline Early. And a big shout out to the incredible Lonely Christopher and James Sherry for really supporting this incredible work in person and out there in the virtual land. A little bit about A Gathering of the Tribes. It was founded in 1991 by Professor Steve Cannon to provide a platform for diverse, traditionally underrepresented artists. Tribe's initial programming included a performance venue, artist salon, and exhibition space in Steve Cannon's East Village home. Tribes was featured in the Whitney 2022 biennial Quiet as It's Kept. It's an honor serving as the executive director. Also a shout out to Gathering the Tribes for being instrumental in my development as an artist. So that said, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage my incredible co-curator and co-host. He is a playwright, poet, does incredible collages. He is the author of Fassbender, his movies, my poems. Can we please give a big warm round of applause for Drew Pissarra, y'all?
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I'm especially excited with our two opening poets for the series. when Reggie approached me about co-curating the series, and we were talking about who we wanted to be a part of it, we quickly established who we wanted to be the opening act. And so I'm really glad that both of them accepted and were available for this date, because they're both phenomenal poets. I just want to speak a little bit about Joan first. This week was really great because I got to take a deep dive into Joan's work again. I've been reading her since I first met her. It's almost 30 years ago. Is that possible? 25? It's a lot. And even when we were like getting ready for this, I recently moved up to New Haven, and I went into a secondhand bookstore, and they had an uncorrected proof of her book for sale, like on a random stack. And I was like, oh, the universe is endorsing this right now. So that felt pretty good. But when I first met Joan through our mutual friend, John, we used to go out to breakfast together, and she was working on a book of meditations that she had kind of mixed feelings about at the time. That's what I remember. Joan just cocked her head like, really? But then I started reading her poems too, and I quickly became a fan. But having just moved to New Haven, one of the things that's been exciting is the Beinecke Library there has a lot of archival materials that I wouldn't be able to get access to normally. So I brought some show and tell items to share. This is from the Center of Book Arts. So if you want to take this and just pass it around. They have this beautiful folder of broadsides from the Center of Book Arts, and Joan's actually really stands out in the whole stack because it's the one that has fabric sewn into the individual broadsheets. They're really gorgeous, and my boyfriend Sock helped me print these things out, so if you flip it over, you can see the stitching, even though this is just a Xerox copy. Thank you, Sock. And then the other thing I wanted to show was I roped Joan into a project a number of years ago called the Lost Poem Project, where we papered, I think it was like 10,000 flyers. Again, here's a little handout for you to see. It's called The Lost Poem. So these were cut up so you could rip them off and you could call in as if this was like a lost dog or a lost cat, but when you called in, you got a poem. And this is why I love Joan so much too, because her photos so embraced the spirit of the project in that it was not a vanity shot. She's shoving half a sandwich in her mouth. Right? A croissant. I stand corrected. So it just, I was really touched that you were a part of that project, and I'm equally excited to be celebrating your work today. We do have some of her books for sale on the table over there. I just again, because I spent so much time reading her work this week, I wanted to, oh, the other thing I discovered too was there was a chapbook at the Beinecke called Boston Piano that I got to read. And it's a small selection of poems about her dad, and it's from the Belladonna Collective, which has published Pamela Sneed and Latasha and Nevada Diggs, who's going to be part of the series as well, but other writers like Jean Thornton, Eileen Miles, Kathleen Shea. So again, I'm just so touched that you're a part of this, and it was really great to spend a week seriously reading your poetry from housework up to the current book, which I adore. I think it's wonderful. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Drew. I want to say that the opening poem in Joan Larkin's latest book, Old Stranger, the title of the poem, Girls Department, and the first section brings a generation of women, sister, daughter, mother, into poetic focus within the confines of a three-way department store dressing mirror. Joan Larkin, throughout the rest of the book, brings her lyrical powers to ekphrastic poems and solemn portraits of the souls that surround her. The book is a journey capturing the fading light of a life where memory blossoms into lyrical poetry. Diane Seuss calls the work a miracle of compression, mystery, and innuendo. Joan Larkin is the author of 5 previous collections: Blue Hanuman, My Body, New and Selected Poems, which received the Audre Lorde Award from the Publishing Triangle. Cold River received a Lambda Literary Award, and Housework is another collection. Joan Larkin co-founded Out and Out Books during the 70s feminist literary explosion and has co-edited 4 anthologies, including Gay and Lesbian Poets of Her Time. She's been a teacher from Brooklyn College to Sarah Lawrence. She's received fellowships from the NEA, New York Foundation for the Arts, the Academy of American Poets, and she received the 2011 Shelley Memorial Award from the Poetry Society of America. I want to say that I wouldn't be the poet that I am today because I have been admiring Joan's work as a queer artist, as a queer poet. The anthology Gay and Lesbian Poets of Our Time really opened the door for queer writers, showing Tennessee Williams and Langston Hughes as being queer poets, as well as new and other exciting poets such as Michael Lissell, who've been mentors for my own work. Over the decades, I have seen Joan. She has been super supportive, humble, and graceful. And so it just humbles me right now that she can just start the series. So can we please give a warm round of applause from where you are in the Zoom to the space that we are for the incredible Joan Larkin.
Goodness. Well, that was the most incredible introduction I think I've ever had, and full of information, things I didn't know. So thank you both, Drew and Reggie, for making space for other poets, and both wonderful poets themselves. And I also want to thank the Segue Foundation and James Sherry, Artist Space, and lots of people who I don't know the names of right off the bat, but you know, it takes a whole lot of people to make these things happen, and I'm very grateful and excited to be reading with Malcolm, and I can't wait to hear you. So I thought I would read a couple of poems from 2 of the earlier books that Reggie mentioned, and I seem to have a whole lot of stuff up here. Let's see. Okay. So yes, we go back decades. I'm what they call a senior citizen now, and I have been for decades. So I'm going to read a poem from the 1970s. Reggie mentioned Housework. That was published by a little collective of lesbian feminist poets, and we put the book together on improvising a light table and using press supply letters that we got at the local drugstore. Out and Out Books. It had a short but intense run. This is called Vagina Sonnet. Is vagina suitable for use in a sonnet? I don't suppose so. A famous poet told me, vagina's ugly, meaning, of course, the sound of it in poems. Meanwhile, he inserts his penis frequently into his verse, calling it seriously my penis. It is short, I know, and dignified. I mean, of course, the sound of it in poems. This whole thing is unfortunate, but petty, like my hang-up concerning English department memos headed Mr., Mrs., Miss, only a fishbone in the throat of the revolution, a waste of brains, to be concerned about this minor issue of my cunt's good name. So that was the 1970s. That was before we heard about, before we had pronouns and things. And I'd like to read a poem from, so Housework is out of print. So lots of the poems in that book and other earlier books are in this new and selected that was new in, well, a couple of decades ago, I guess. I don't know, I wrote down that I wanted to read the title poem, My Body. Now I'm not so sure. All right, let's go for it. Oops, okay. Boy, this was a long time ago, and it's gone downhill since then. My body. Throat puckered like crepe, right hand throbbing with arthritis, right hip permanently higher than left, right leg shorter after years of books slung from one shoulder, one breast smaller, both sagging like grandma's, shriveled around the nipples, upper arms lumpy, veins in legs varicose, back freckled from sunburn when I passed out on the beach in 1964, face creasing, still breaking out, hairs bristling from bumps I didn't start out with, nose pitted, burst capillaries on nostrils, 2 extra holes pierced in the left ear, so I'll never forget those months with Cedo. Thank God I refused the tattoo. 2 vaccination scars, shoulders stiff from fracture in 1986 when I fell on a stone floor at Cummington, skin dotted with what? Moles? Age spots? Melanoma that killed my father? Sagging belly, testament to fear, dieting, birth, abortion, miscarriage. Years of fighting booze and overeating still written in my flesh, small cysts around labia, sparse pubes, not yet like my head full of gray that first appeared the year I had 2 jobs and pneumonia. Eyes needing bifocals now, no good for driving at night, still blue and intense, tired, but my best feature. Or maybe it's my hands, strong, blunt, with prominent veins, lungs still wheezing after years of asthma and smoking, all of me still full of groans, sighs, tears, still responsive to the slightest touch, grief and desire still with me, though I hardly ever have reason to close the curtains, naked fool for passion, and wonder if I'll live alone the rest of my time in this body, my old friend now, healed and healed again, still walking and breathing, scars faded as thin silver signatures. Okay, then in 2014, Blue Hanuman, I think I'll just read one poem from Blue Hanuman. And this is called Eye of Newt, and it's about my first encounter with various forms of art, courtesy of my older brother. And the poem mentions Girl Before a Mirror, which you probably know is a famous painting by Picasso. And it also it has the word life in it, not as life itself, but as Life magazine, where apparently they must have done a special on Picasso, and my brother tore out a page and tacked it on the wall. Too much intro. Here goes. Eye of Newt. I was larval. I dreamed myself downstairs in PJs, still in my coma. Bach, he said, and I lay next to the radio. Dark amber spread through my girl brain. Eye of Newt already nestled there, an egg glued to a twig. My pale, bespectacled brother set me on a leaf and watched me fatten. Franz Kafka, he said, and my new long feelers brushed the wall. Girl Before a Mirror was tacked there, torn from life, her twin pear belly, worm pink as my own. half curled, half crawling. I burst through skin after skin. Art, I said, and my wings fanned slowly open. And I'm going to read from Old Stranger. The cover is similar to, but not identical to, the one that Drew held up, and it has a portrait of the wonderful painter Paula Modersohn Becker in it. They're indestructible, fortunately, and there goes the pen. Okay, too much stuff. It's okay. I'm not going to write anything while I'm standing up here. I'll just have writer's block for the evening. Okay, I'd like to read My Father's Tie Rack. Back of the door to his dark closet, eye height, with clever steel pegs I could flip both ways, a row of pendulums, of tongues, words wordless, witnesses waiting to be sworn, the town's secret, a silk body, a man's plenty, a wild ache, a knot, one painted with gold mums, one with blood leaves on mud, Vishnu's skin, 20 shades of sky, white flag iris, slick sheen of a green-black snake. Which one went with him into the hole? Somewhere else, his belts. Since Reggie mentioned Girls Department, I'm going to read that one. This is the opening poem in the book. Girls Department. I stared at my shameful flesh in the three-way mirror. Mother, my guide, my witness, pinched me between her fingers, thinking aloud. Could she work with the skimpy seam allowance, get it to fit? My model thin cousin, Nancy, sent me a box of hand-me-downs, soft wool skirts, an orchid sweater set, a size too small, another girl's raiment. My sister meant well, Mother instructed, then took me to Brigham's for a treat, hot fudge, melted breast-like pyramids of peppermint stick ice cream, and I crunched the small, clear candies. I sang in a talent contest once, Indian Love Call, in a green tulle gown Mother grabbed from a bin. She had an eye for a bargain. She took up the hem. Those bins were, I grew up in the Boston area, so Filene's basement, would move things from bin to bin and the ones that didn't get sold got marked down. We were habitués. Chain of events. And the first line mentions being in nothingness, which I'm sure you already know is a great work by Jean-Paul Sartre. It started with being in nothingness and hiding a pack of Luckies in my school bag, tucking a matchbook in front without tearing the cellophane. I risked taking the streetcar downtown late at night. Did they never hear me? And basked in the gleam of Herb Pomeroy's band and the tang of underage vodka in orange juice. I quit sleeping in metal curlers, told everyone I was an existentialist, though I kept wearing my Peter Pan collar and gold tone circle pin almost right up to the night of the abortion. I gave up on the straggly page boy. I think that was part of what Mother meant when she screamed, "Where did I go wrong?" I don't know, I think many of them read from the same script. I've heard that question before. Okay. Hexagon tiled bathroom floor. Small white face, cheek by jowl with 6 so like you they could be you, joined and kept apart by careful grout. We've met before, you and your 1,000 sisters, close as thin-walled honeycomb. Bathroom floor, the little theater of childhood where I shook, soaked overalls around my feet, while mother cleaned me with her rough cloth, and I stared as tiles went in, out, rose, fell, as if they were breathing. My mind between, where nothing touches. Mother's implacable grimace still with me, stored bee food waiting for the future, where I too stood aloof from love. I'd like to read a couple of poems about, well, they're inspired by my brother, my older brother, Donald, who introduced me to Picasso and Kafka and Shakespeare and all that. And so this is about his passing in rural Maine. Gilmore Road. When you fell in wet snow downhill from where your car balanced all night, one wheel hanging over nothing, wind hissing secrets in the pines, your mind still making words. So this is how it happens. No one heard your sigh or saw your ghost rise from the soaked husk of you. Wind hissed as they gathered you in, shouldered you carefully onto their truck, never having heard your music, ignorant as I of your new address. And this poem doesn't actually mention my brother, but it's all about his piano. No one wants them. It stood in the half-emptied parlor, heavy-footed, 700 pounds, old dark body streaked where claws had sharpened against its side. Dust wheeled in a downdraft. The auctioneer was saying he couldn't give it away. No one wants them, filling his van with cracked things. Hard to get any value out of this house as he slid brass bed rails behind a slotted plate stand. I kept my mouth shut. He couldn't give a shit for the speech of angels. All it needed was new felt for the hammers. Someone, a kid, could learn on it, or the nursing home, Tall Pines. I cleaned ivory keys, offered free delivery. The born-again teacher wanted it for her son, whey-faced and mute in his father's grasp while she tried some chords. We're sorry. The tuner put on his black cap after 5 minutes. The keys were plastic. Tuning could snap old wires, etc. I made the phone call then, and a kind man came with his rope and harness. I paid him to take it in his truck to sink to earth in the Camden dump. That was August. It will rot in winter. And maybe a couple more. Okay. This is called One Fragment of 1980, but it was written in, 2023. Okay, page 15. I knew some of the women standing in a ragged circle, passing a lit joint pinched between thumb and finger. Watched it pass, their bursts of laughter, small explosions in my solar plexus. Pressed my sweating glass to my cheek, confused by the close dance I'd had with a woman whose drunk girlfriend watched, smiling and smoking. I studied a patch of sun on the floor. Weed smell filled the room. Don't you hate it? Thin, dark Linda next to me had seen my face. She joked about not knowing names for feelings. Mad, glad, sad. Weren't there 4? Scared shitless, I offered. I didn't say grateful, didn't guess until the party and her name came back to me tonight, how much I owed, still owe, that shred of smiling talk. So there's a series of short poems based on paintings by Paula Modersohn Becker in the book, and there's one that's untitled and it's 5 lines long. I'm going to read that and then one last short poem. So here it is. The dark dress takes hold, a root thrust from deeper dark. Lids closed, blood mouth closed, her face blooms on a short stem. The flower in her hand will last the day. And I'll end with this one. Banjo, dulcimer, fiddle. Face resting in my palm, I stretched out long on the green lawn, listening, not listening so much as loving how air shivered, and sorrow was a tune, a light index finger downstroke, a slide joke, a note that repeated. My mind twanged with it, grass trembled and shone, banjo, dulcimer, fiddle, singing my story. Hush, listen, this song has 1,000 verses. Thanks, everybody. What a great audience. Appreciate you.
Joan Larkin, everyone. One more time for the incomparable Joan Larkin. Are you all having a good time? All right. If you're in the Zoom room, I wish that you could feel the love that is in this space right now. Before we introduce our other feature poet, I'm going to give a shout out to the Gathering of the Tribes crew. I want to give a shout out to the heart and soul of the Gathering of the Tribes. I would not be able to do the work without Tracy Don Williams. So can we snap it up for Tracy Don Williams? Shout out also to our editorial assistants, Andrew Tai, Al Salwin, Rosalind Aparicio Ramirez, and Effie Guzman. I also want to give a shout out to some fabulous folks who are in the house. Pamela Booker is in the house, who's going to be one of our featured poets in this fall season. So we're so excited that you're here, Pamela Booker. And let me bring up Drew Pissarra, and I'm going to introduce Malcolm, but let's do this together in a little kumbaya duo. This reading was inspired. I'd have to give a shout out to Nathaniel Siegel, who asked me to co-curate the Rainbow Book Fair. And in the curation of working with Drew, this is how I met Malcolm and heard Malcolm read and was totally blown away. The energy that was in the room was just totally phenomenal. So I want to give a shout out that all of the seeds for this were planted in April. Heed the Hollow is Malcolm Tariq's latest book. It is an Afro-queer lyrical jubilee of pain and pleasure, taking historical themes of enslavement and appropriation and connecting them to Tariq's personal odyssey of empowerment on a Southern dance floor, fracturing the metaphorical possibilities of bottom. The title poem is a prayer for humanity as we find ourselves on the brink of erasure. Poet, playwright, and scholar Malcolm Tariq grew up in Savannah, Georgia. He earned a BA and MA from Emory University, and a PhD in English from the University of Michigan. He is the author of He the Hollow, 2019 winner of the Cave Canem Poetry Prize, and the Georgia Author of the Year Award, and extended play. Tariq completed a playwriting apprenticeship at Horizon Theater Company and was a 2020-21 resident playwright with the Liberation Theater Company. They're also a former programs manager for Cave Canem.
Thank you. I was remembering actually when I sat down after talking about Joan, that what brought me to the Beinecke actually was that I was thinking about like, why did we pick these two poets in the beginning? And I felt like, to me, they felt like, you know, part of my personal canon, right? So I was like, yeah, but does Yale think so? Because I'm up in New Haven. And so I looked them up and they were both in the library. But the most of the stuff that they had of Jones was in the Beinecke, so you had to go to a special room and, you know, place an order. But both Malcolm and one book of Jones were, you know, available just to take out. And the book of Jones that was available for checking out was Sorwana's Love Poems. And I've had her stuff recommended to me for years, and I've tried and failed. And this book really made her accessible to me in a way. And it also made me think, oh, maybe this is what Joan and Malcolm have in common, or one of the commonalities is just the ability to talk to queer identity in a way that's a jolt for me as a reader. And there's a line in the Sor Juana book that I really, it's, if loving you is a sin, don't expect me to do penance, which I thought was pretty great. And then from Malcolm's book, this is from Fucking a Proclamation. What if the ancestors are watching us fuck? And I just thought it was a beautiful through line, right? Bringing us to the present. Aside from the reading that you mentioned at the Rainbow Book Fair, I actually had the pleasure of working with Malcolm before on a project where I commissioned, I think it was a dozen poets to write sonnets inspired by Shakespeare's plays. And Malcolm's, like, the minute I got it, I was just completely enamored of it. The title is The Mother of Othello Comes Before Us. And I was like, Othello has a mother. Oh, wow, never thought about that. And she is mentioned in the play, and I actually went back to it today. And what's so interesting is the handkerchief that's so central to the plot is a magical handkerchief. And that was lost on me, you know, in previous encounters. But as part of the project before, this is all show and tell for me. We had these postcards made. The poems were displayed on these giant LED screens outside of the theater, but we also had postcards made that people could take if they came to see a show. And so everybody can have a postcard of Malcolm's poem, including you, Malcolm.
And you get a postcard,
Yeah,
and you get a postcard,
that's
and
right.
you get a postcard.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this book. I was excited that when we requested some poems for tribes.org, that one of the poems that Malcolm shared was something I hadn't seen before and thought was terrific. And I heard that you're going to be reading some other ones that will be unfamiliar to my ears, and I'm excited to hear them.
So I want to say, Malcolm, I spent about 4 weeks in MAGA country, Virginia, north of North Carolina, and being a queer BIPOC poet person was not fun. There were challenges, But reading this book was the only thing that can get me through some of those hard days. This is a glorious book. I can't tell you just how this came out in 2019 and probably was uh, being composed even before that. But this almost was a prophetic book into what would be coming and what was happening. So please definitely check this book out.
And the reason I checked it out literally from the library is I think it's important, like I have my own copy, but I think it's important that the library knows you got to keep this book, right? You got to keep this book on your shelves, not put it in the sales rack as you're trying to, whittle down your holdings. It's a truly beautiful book. So
Yeah, that book should be worn out. People should be taking
Oh, yeah.
it and like, making love to the book.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. All right, let's give it up for the poetic stylings by the one and only Malcolm Tariq, y'all. Clap it up, snap it up. You got it. Go in poet.
Can you hear me? Is it good? Thanks. Yeah, Drew and Reggie, no one's beating the introductions. Every time I'm just blown away and sometimes don't realize they're talking about me, that description of the book. I wish it was on the back of the book. Very grateful for their support. Anytime Drew or Reggie ask me to do anything, I say yes without really knowing what it is fully. And that's what happened this time. And I didn't know I was reading with Joan until weeks after I said yes, and then I got more excited, and I did not want to miss this at all. It's very special to me. So thank you to Drew and Reggie for just being great, but also for just preserving and amplifying the voices of queer writers, especially local writers who a lot of people haven't heard of before, and just being a part of gatherings like this really empower me. So thank you, that's special. And also to the Segue Foundation, I met James today. This was a reading series I first learned about when I moved to New York 6 years ago, and so I definitely said yes to this. And so thank you to James and the foundation for keeping this going. I'm gonna read a little bit from Heed, and then I'll go into some new stuff. Try to stay on time. So this is the title poem, Heed the Hollow. I want to remember everything that has happened to me, history of my flesh, scar of her miscarriage. I take my own pills as I once learned to sign for my mother's birth control, preventative measures. I am learning to reproduce myself with the shape of my mouth's consuming. I'll swallow everything. I have to forget to live the way men read labels as invitations. I've heard women in my family talk of assault as I've heard men talk of assaulting. I'll be something to someone someday or nothing but spill. Truth be told, I want to be the last side effect and the disease. I'll settle for a curse. I am trying to remember to forget the colonizer's name on my medical chart, scripting my back. I straighten into narrative and carry it in spite of my name, how he grabs me as if prescribed. I want to forget the way he's had me over the counter taking him, the way he told me you were almost a power bottom. And speaking of MAGA country, I decided to read, and thinking about what's happening, there's a few poems in here that are kind of like, maybe they're all political, I don't know, but definitely thinking about president things and political whatever in this country. So the first is an erasure of George Washington's will. An erasure is, I'm sure you know, it's just a poem that is, it's a poetic practice where you take a text and you erase certain things and what's left is a poem. So I did that with George Washington's will. I tried to do that with Thomas Jefferson. It was quite boring. George Washington is more exciting. So this is, oh, also I'm forgetting, there's this room, I don't know, that George Washington had a lot of false teeth, and some of those came from the Black people who he owned. And that was written in one of his ledgers when he died, they found it. So this poem is called Self-Portrait as George Washington's Teeth. I, instrument of circumstance, hold most difficult sensations from bodily infirmities fed by, bound by Negro crops. Permanent provision is alternative testimony of his attachment to me. Trust this donation vested in misconceptions, meaning the pleasure of prejudice, so desirable an object as good matter. Public mind, pregnant country limits my honorable body, some object I, legal alien, I, Negro, made as evidence of desire. My private, my share, the original design of my head from me to him, unsheathed blood for unsheathed domain, bounded at the gum to the mouth of his person. My whole deed, 2/3 joint uses and benefits to the stone and oak of the South. Thence I hold all the rest and residue of lying. Desire cannot be made without my parts. 4 parts, 1 part to each 5 other parts, 1 to 4 parts, 1 part each give 2 parts, 1 part 3 parts, 1 part to each 1 other part, that is to each 1/3 of that part, 3 other parts of person is unknown to him. To take stock and repair a new one of brick, to remain entombed here without oration, to digest his sense of intention, I, binding witness of the state. And the last, I want to do something that I don't know if I've done this before, but I'm gonna read one of my poems. This happened when I literally woke up. I opened my eyes. That's how excited I was for this reading. And I started thinking about what I was gonna read. There's a writer who's incarcerated in Michigan. His name is Demetrius Buckley. I've gotten the opportunity and honor to work with him and just to know him over these past few months. He actually, when I was at Cave right before I left, I was administering the Cornelius Eady and Toy Derricott Chapbook Prize, and he won that prize. So he has a chapbook out with O Miami Poetry Festival. But he sent me this poem called The We, that was after Gwendolyn Brooks's We Real Cool, and it was, I never read a response like this to that poem. So I'm gonna read, I didn't realize that it was kind of related to this other poem I have. So I'm gonna read my poem, and then I'm gonna read his poem, and then I'm gonna segue into some new things. And this is called The Body Politic. Say this isn't the whole of it, this frail book and its sentence. Somebody's too good and no good grin, somebody's god awful and too full mouth, somebody's tired. Somebody rattles the cage another will die under. Somebody's sickle and somebody's sell. Somebody be out they cotton picking mind, somebody's else be all up in it. I mean the weight of a dime in my hand before collection. I'm talking Sunday be somebody's lifeline, somebody's prison whose body a pipeline. Teacher's judgment against my house collateral. I'm counting books and lives, putting money on books and bailouts. Despite this black president, I'm thinking slumlords and thug porn. Family courting the law while your mama's so fat and somebody's big black. 3/5 a body's sum, body's worth in inches, whose back a bridge, whose broken daddy's back on crack, somebody stepped on the beat, we dug it. A body was bodied while politicking who done it. Somebody's well-meaning and good intentions, somebody's everyday and everybody you love, somebody's lost. Nobody's somebody you can't give back. Somebody's something paid for it. Somebody's womb be somebody's gun, somebody's baby against bullet. The plot quickens. Headstone bodied bodies be bodying days. Centuries bookend the dash. Our lives will fit within it. Our lives will abandon the boundaries of the body, the way some bodies belong to the state. I stay stating my name like it matters. I am, and I am, and I am. Thank you. And this is The We After Gwendolyn Brooks by Demetrius Buckley. I've never read this out loud, so we're gonna see what happens. The We. We cars, we jewelry, we hey, hey, hey at shorties who are often forward. We unbelievable, two-tone, cut with or can't be cut from. We prisoner, we Congress. We don't care about answers from mouths. Woman answer is 2 o'clock, I need my money. We sick, we need her to bow our heads and say gracious things to the court. We adults, we a force of infinite white lies cause a black one will get you whacked. We Caesars, Moser, Imhotep, we ain't colors in your coloring books. We ain't ammo or pawns, we easy on the eyes. We wise man once said. We magic, a cell left for ceremony. We cane, we don't complete the scale. We open dreams like tuna packs, mix that shit in a plastic bowl and bang it. We, honestly, if you keep getting me mixed up with the fake activist, power to the what I stand for is what I stand on. We introduce ourselves like transformers. We turn into things that they have to house the housed. We the many boxes they have a hard time opening. We born again and again until your Cash App is flagged. We don't know how much about telling folks where to hide their marbles. We all scrambled. We first-time caregivers, foster dads, a bad advice, poor leaders. We dummy enough to kill over a 36-cent noodle. We first responders. We picking out the clouds down on mother's house. We trees, we trees, we trees, we trees. We ain't letting it go. We can't move a muscle, so we spiritual. We all essence of life, anecdoting scripture. We the people don't stand for no fucking day job, lack of housing, education, reform, so hurry up and pass the damn bill. We know Bill in Angola corrections, baling hay for 3 hots and a pine box. Michigan slave ship, 34,000 plus. We out of time, a global tail length tribute. We please try your call again or repeat after me. We make a full room. We the number that has been connected. We bad signal through a storm. After visitation, we just wanna say we too far away to make the drive. Isn't that great? So why this one really spoke to me out of the ones he sent me was because I don't know if I've read a poem that was responding to it from the perspective of the young men she's writing about. And as soon as I read it, it was just like so powerful to me. And he called me a few weeks ago and told me it won a prize or was finalist for something, so it'll be published soon, which I was happy to hear. Yeah, so now I'll read some new poems. Drew asked me if when my next book was out. I said as soon as I was done writing it. I don't know when that is. But why I love readings like this is I get to just try stuff out, read stuff even if it isn't finished. So if some of this feels like fragments, I'm okay with that. I hope you're okay with that. A lot of these poems, what can I say? I don't know. I turned 30 during the pandemic, like that month, and I'm 34 now. So I've just been thinking about this phase of my life and what that means and what I'm doing. And so there's that. I think this next project is, it's like a shape of a record. So it's a lot about music and R&B and thinking about a book as like a vinyl. I've been listening to a lot of, and I should say through self-titled albums by Black women in like the year 2000. So Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, those people. I don't think I'll read any of those poems today, but it's in that vein. And I also want to thank Joan for her work and for her writing and just being so generous. I saw her read for the first time at the Rainbow Book Festival, which we both were reading in. And when she was reading, it felt like a one-woman show. And then later she came up to me, and I don't remember, I was just so shocked that she came up to me and told me how much she liked my work. I just stopped talking, and it was just a very special moment. And anytime she's reading or I'm reading her work, it's just, I'm so centered on what's happening. and so present. And so I've been trying to do that in my own writing, not to just overthink and to just experience what's happening. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. And what else was I going to say about Joan? Oh, so Sunday and Monday, I had an appendicitis, I learned. And so Monday morning at like 10, I was in the ER attached to IVs and pain medicine. And I was about to post a flyer for this event, and the doctor comes over, like literally in my hand, and the doctor comes over and says, well, you know, your appendix is inflamed, so we're gonna have to take it. And I had never had surgery before, and I was very concerned that I wouldn't make this reading. And one of my first questions was, well, can I go to my reading? First of all, I'm a poet, can I go to my reading on Saturday? And they said I could. So I'm so happy to be here. I did not want to miss this. So yes, thank you, Joan. So I'll just talk as I read about what's happening. This is a poem called Unboxing Veteran Material. I had a habit of not unpacking fully when I lived in these apartments. And last fall, my cousin came to visit me. She stayed a week. She didn't help me do this, but I just started unboxing stuff and like setting up this apartment that is my own now. And then sat down to write this poem. Unboxing Veteran Material. Needing nothing now to be tucked away, ready. This time the room becomes less brown as each life, one by one, empties its rooms. These cubes of books stacked, marked with 3 addresses passed, the just-in-case files and the build work, due process of the fat filling the seams lining this too small shirt. This too once held me. Needed from wash to wash, as dim as the light bulbs moved from room to room, not to mention the bowl breaking in the kitchen cabinet, the long crack like a hair grade in my beard some 2 years now. I give you up, break down those homes, thank them for their service. I wrote this poem because I think I heard my grandma talking about 2 men having sex on the side of the house, and I was confused. And I have not asked her about it since. She has Alzheimer's now, so that I don't think it's possible. But it stayed with me. The way she described it, and you'll hear. Living a life since, touched. Living a life since then, I understand now what grandma meant when she said it. If only I too could have seen the men on the side of the house that day, but look at where forbiddance led me, how wild the imagination, feeble my mind to think such intimate embrace, my searching to fully comprehend another violence. I could be the fence on which they fell, the house where they leaned, the fists pummeling the face, the ground lit with blood, the sweat. I'm sure I have lived as both men, wanting to be touched in any way possible, fighting for love or to stay alive. Even now, hearing her say, that man was tearing him up, I'm thinking destruction for creation's sake. The boy in me begs to be made into a likeness liked enough that someone will want to beat it out of me. So maybe she was talking about fighting, but I read it as sex, and maybe that's my problem, I realize now. So. I'm excited about this poem, and I'll probably be writing it for like a year. It's that feeling, you know, like the first time you liked somebody and every time you like touch or do something, it's very exciting. Yeah, that, but then it happens years later with somebody else. And so I was basically having an intimate moment with someone, and it was very intense. And then later, months later, we shared how we were both thinking about our past and like how much that encounter like sparked something. So I'm still working on it, but this is what I have so far. Articulation. Watching him want beyond the body's proof, seeing him find his way to it, this sanctuary, another life missed. Learning a name as a name is a naming, like love, something to grow into. I wish you could see this, he said. this singing, how cautious, what longing this touch, to see it never left, and let him spell it out. Against fear. We've always thought of last breath reaching out of invisibility, marked hours on whatever could be seen. Blank was here. Signed classroom notes with our names, also known as, better known as, forever known as. Please save me from myself. Forever is there in us worth saving, and all the names worth saying. A child they call ever. Allow me my fear. My brother is 13 and won't always be. Threat turns us. I want to go on forever, the way Medgar Evers. Nina says freedom means no fear. I am a pool of what ifs, but why not ground me? Name all the Black babies ever. A friend writes me, signs off as ever. Okay, so now we can get into it. So this is in the vein of like music and R&B. I'm going back to this chapbook extended play, which I don't really read from. And I started writing this poem, thanks to marijuana, about this relationship I was in. And I wasn't, a lot of these poems were inspired by that, but I don't think I was thinking about the person. And one night when I was smoking, I just was thinking about like what I learned, not necessarily from him, but from that thing. And I started writing this poem, and then later on was thinking about other men in my life, my dad, my uncles, my cousins, like all of what all these men have taught me. And remixing it a little bit with a poem from this chapbook, which I also wrote during an interesting relationship. Also, this book, Extended Play, is like an EP, which is a smaller album. And so I do, and this is from 2017. And I feel like this book I'm writing now is a kind of like what happened to me then, but I'm responding differently and I'm able to like learn new things from it in a different way. So shout out to growth. I'm gonna read the original poem and then the more recent poem. So this one is One Ending of Learning. I did not kiss you farewell in the rain. We said goodbye in the building. When I stepped outside, I was in the rain. It is windy today. It was windy and gray. At the table, I wanted to cry for some reason I don't know. I wanted you to as well. We did not kiss goodbye. I stepped outside and needed my umbrella. I could barely stand the wind. I tried not to slip on the sidewalk. I put it down and entered the building. I went into another building. It was still raining. Even if I wanted to look up into the stars, water would fall into my eyes. I saw this coming. I tried to write this poem yesterday. I wanted to get it over before I had to. I tried to write this poem months ago before this happened. Why would I think I'd have the answers? Yesterday, there was sorrow that is gone now. Who even has the answers? I stepped into the rain thinking about winter, thinking about last winter, the winter before that. What I thought was sorrow was sadness. I'm turning back now. I thought the poem was how to be lonely. Now I see it is learn to be lonely. Maybe I will try to write this poem again tomorrow. My horoscope says it's about the experience of the experience. I'm trying to be good, to be well, but the sky has the answers, the void that I cannot look into without a fresh, stinging pain. This is a sick feeling, writing this, making it into something good. I stepped into the rain thinking about that you had no umbrella on your way home. I knew you thought you didn't need one. I'm wondering if you really do. He taught me in the key of our mothers. He taught me to go out of my usual way of doing things, that a day could be lived unplanned. He taught want, not need, how to hide it but not where it fits, with his back turned and his hands out, that one could expect flowers still. What it meant to hold a hand, mold a mind. Like a boy, he taught me to man, be good. I learned well. He loved me lonely, learned me like math, showed me where the line is, how to move it, how easily divisible one could be. Last winter, the winter before that, how to sleep midday, then step into the rain. He taught me to him like him and him before. Bravado, my true name, each one he gave me, what it could mean. What I mean when I say a man like that will only teach you how to leave. And finally, I'm going to read my last poem. Also, Joan's last phrase, a song, this song has 1,000 verses. It was something like that. That's what I'm writing right now, the 1,000 verses of my life in this album of a book. So thank you all for listening. Thank you again to Drew and to Reggie and for the Segue Foundation and for Gathering of Tribes, also an important organization. I knew about Steve, but not about the Gathering, which is also why stuff like this is important. So, John, your message came through as my train crossed over the Manhattan Bridge. Have you seen the smog today? Every day is the same, but then there is this history. Someone beckons to know you are in the world. Someone wants to see what you see. Outside, ash from another country corrupts our breathing, and I cannot make out the river below. We imagine our lives from such distance. From there, the truth becomes clear. I keep waiting for days like this to end. I keep waiting for days like this to begin. By the time you get this message, we have pulled into each other. The news anchor is telling us New York City has the worst air right now. An arm is wrapped around a body, hands nurse glasses of wine, the kitchen is cleaned. It's sad to think you won't remember this, us watching our lives from the safety of our living. One room will bleed into the next. You can't make out my name from such fog. My love, let this note prove it all wrong. Your eyes will always be my world. I tried to take a picture of it. Thank you.
Malcolm Tariq, everyone, one more time for the incredible Malcolm Tariq. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask Malcolm and Joan Larkin to come up for a photo op. Can we please welcome them back for a photo? I know there's a love fest. I'm going to have Drew Pissarra. This is a photo opportunity. I do want to say this. If you had a great time, every Saturday, the next 7 Saturdays, right here at 5 o'clock, an amazing duo of poets will be here. Next week, we have Nancy Mercado and Slappy Chulo. Could we please have Joan and Malcolm back for a photo op? So photo opportunity. Thank you again to Jim Sherry and Lonely Christopher. Yes, and you can buy Joan's books, and there is a, yes, do not, yes, come. Yes, we have, Joan has some books for sale, and they're at a special price. Do you want to check that out? And also, if you're joining us here, I'm told that we are going to have a little drink after.